All right, everyone, because of the all-encompassing nature of this issue right now in the news, I ask that everyone watch the entire video before bothering to comment, either in approval or disapproval, because honestly, sometimes people get it wrong a bit, because they don't wait. They see the title or they listen to the first minute and then they comment. Donald Trump came out on Twitter earlier saying that in consultation with his military generals, he had decided to ban transgendered people from entering the U.S. Armed Forces at any level. That means combat roles, non-combat, that means like medical staff, everything under the sun. Can't even be like a paper pusher for the military if you're transgendered. Now let's put the moral argument aside for a moment, because that's it's more subjective within human reasoning. Here's the legal problem with what he's trying to do. I can see this, and this is my prediction. Within the next 10 years, this will become the next gay marriage. It'll become a national nightmare. It'll it'll tear families apart and pit people against each other. It'll turn into some dumb partisan issue, and people will make all sorts of weird statements about it, and ultimately the Supreme Court will come in, and they will rule against it, and it'll be determined to be unconstitutional, and here's why. I can envision some years from now, 10 years, 15 years, the Supreme Court will say, well, there was always an easy workaround to this situation. A blanket ban makes no sense in any legal framework. It's unconstitutional, and so it has to end. And then at that point, by the way, when they rule on it, you're going to be left probably wishing that they used the workaround, and I'll explain that in a moment to begin with, because then you're going to be using taxpayer money to fund hormone replacement therapy and things. Now, the solution to this is very, very simple. The solution is as follows, and it's multi-pronged here. Number one, make it clear. Transgendered people can join the military, but if they want hormone replacement therapy while they're there, it's going to come out of their pay. They're going to be the ones paying for it. It's not going to be covered under the U.S. military's medical system. Number two, sex change surgery will not be covered as well. It will be something you can't get when you're in active service. You're not taking, weeks off because you decided to have your genitals altered. It's cosmetic surgery, which is what it should be considered. By the way, Obamacare mandating that it be covered is dumb. It's a cosmetic surgery, and the VA won't cover it either. Not that, who would go to the VA for anything at this point? With all the problems that have been had with the VA, would you really trust them to mess around with your junk? I don't think any sane person would, so I think that'd be more problematic. It'd probably also end up costing more. It's like, just go to Mexico to get sex change surgery. Go to the Philippines or India or something. You're going to get a better procedure anyway. In the VA, you get like Legionnaire's disease if you just go in the building, so who cares? Number three, make it clear. Therapy will be available to transgendered individuals, the same as those that aren't, but you won't be getting any extra therapy on top, again, paid for by taxpayer money. You're going to have to do everything any other soldier does. If any other soldier decides after their service to get cosmetic surgery, does the VA cover it? If they want their ears clipped, if they want some ass implants or something, does the VA cover that? No. It shouldn't cover sex change operations either. That should be something people, if you really feel compelled, you pay for it out of pocket. As far as hormone replacement, the U.S. government will get the estrogen or the testosterone for you, but you have to pay for it. It's coming out of your pay. And we're not going to give you a cent of subsidies for that. And that basically takes the economic issue off the table. And the fact that such a workaround could be employed is why it will be found unconstitutional. Because the government is constrained by the Constitution. We've already seen this with gay marriage and a half dozen other things. The government is required to make reasonable accommodations for individuals. Now, using the economic argument only works if there's no workaround. The fact that one exists is why it will be found unlawful by the Supreme Court when it eventually gets there. Now, it might take 5 years, it might take 15. That's what'll happen. And once again, this has nothing to do with the moral side. Morally speaking, I say if someone wants to go get shot at and they're capable of holding a gun and running wearing body armor, does it really matter to me? No. And in this sense, I take up the same tack that I did on gay marriage back in the 90s. Now keep in mind, mid-1990s when, the issue first becomes something that the average person is aware even exists, I was like, well, who cares? Who cares if gay people want to get married or cohabit or adopt a kid or whatever? Why it doesn't affect me? Who cares? And at the time, only a slim minority of the U.S. population, even in the most liberal, states, thought that way. Let alone maybe if you went to Alabama or something. Most people at the time were still saying that if you even supported the idea, you must yourself be gay. And so it became problematic. But that was my feelings. I'm like, why do I even care about this? Why do I fucking care? I'm taking up the same line on transgendered issues. Someone who's transgendered wants to use the bathroom. Insofar as they're actually transgendered, who cares? Now, there will be creepy people who they do cross-dressing just to sneak into the girls' room and, put a pinhole camera in or something, and that has at several points now already been a problem. But if somebody is actually transgendered, who cares, essentially? I'm not sure that I do. And I know that puts me in the small minority, once again, as it did with gay marriage. But I support liberty. I support freedom and common sense, and I have, I think, a more open mind than most when it comes to looking at legal arguments. Because of the lack of personal bias, because I don't really care if somebody's transgendered, nor did I care that they were gay. I don't care about many of these things. Because I don't give the argument any moral weight, and I just look at the legal recourse involved. I think I have a better picture than most about what will happen. Why do you think I predict things so easily? It's because oftentimes I'm talking about things that I don't really have strong feelings on. It doesn't evoke any sort of emotional response from me. So I can just step back, look at the situation as is, compare it to situations that have rough similarity, and see what is more likely to occur. That's why I know what's going on in the world, for people that are wondering how I do that. You don't need any sort of witchy voodoo stuff. It helps. It helps if you're studying ancient philosophy and you know about correlation and synchronicity in these things. That's certainly great. It certainly enhances that capability. But ultimately, it's about, are you yourself biased in a situation, or are you able to analyze it properly? Well, I can analyze this properly. This legal argument won't hold weight. It's going to get thrown out the window. And now, because you're taking up this tack on it, what's going to happen is that when the Supreme Court weighs in, they might determine, oh, well, the government, they need to supply hormones and stuff. Now, if you simply let people who are transgendered into the military and make it clear we're docking your pay, the cost of these if you want us to supply them, and you're going to need to have us supplying them if you want in, because we're not going to let you do self-medicating while you're in some fucking barracks somewhere. And therapy, you're getting the same amount as anyone else, no more, no less. That would be responsible. You get no additional privileges. You get no additional rights. We're not making any other general accommodations. You're a soldier now. You're government green. You're our fucking property, and you're going to do what you're told. As long as that happens, that may hold legal weight. That may be accepted by the courts, and they would say, yeah, that's perfectly fine. They're still getting access to these things. They're paying for it themselves. And the government has said they're not, supplying taxpayer money for cosmetic surgery either during or after their role in the U.S. military. And that's what they should do. That's simply what should be done. Someone's transgendered, who cares? Can they fire a gun? Are they any good at what they're trying to do? Then, let them be a soldier. But you shouldn't be throwing taxpayer money at them above and beyond what any other soldier gets. It should be all equal within the U.S. military for that purpose. Then there will be those who go well beyond the economic issue. And they'll say something to the effect of, oh, well, they're mentally ill, so they shouldn't be allowed to serve. Well, they used to say that about homosexuals. You remember Don't Ask, Don't Tell? Did it hold up in court? Despite the fact that decades prior, people had widely agreed upon the fact that homosexuality was a mental illness. The medical establishment did. The psychiatric establishment from the 60s or 70s said, yeah, they're mentally ill. They're nuts. We should give them electroshock or something. That passes by the wayside. They still attempt to keep them out of the U.S. military. It doesn't work. DOMA didn't work. Don't Ask, Don't Tell didn't work. The concept of discriminating against a class of people who should be considered equal if they're able to do the equal job, it doesn't work. We're not talking about private entities here. We're talking about the U.S. government. They are more specifically constrained by the concept of the 13th and in this case, I would say to a degree, really the Fourth Amendments. And so that's how it will be construed. They'll say, well, what business is it of Uncle Sam's whether the soldier's taking hormones unless they can show compelling evidence that it's interfering with their duties as a soldier? They're paying for it themselves. Who cares? And ultimately, that's the way they will rule. That's my prediction anyway. It could be wrong, but so far I have no reason to believe that I'm going to be wrong. Well, it's going to be like gays in the military, gay marriage, or any of these other so-called moral arguments. Divorce yourself from the moral context. You can get a feel for the legal ramifications more easily. That's what you need to do. It'll be ruled unconstitutional, I say. And really, there's such an easy workaround to this. You don't need to make it a national moral issue. It doesn't have to be a partisan issue. It doesn't have to be a moral issue. It doesn't have to be a fucking national conversation. Every time somebody in the government gets it into their head that some group of people is incapable of performing the same tasks as some other group of people, give them equality of possibility. Let them submit themselves to Uncle Sam. They want to go off and die in some fucking godforsaken desert, who cares? By the way, there's an additional ramification I don't know anyone has mentioned, so I'll mention it here. Does this not set up the same scenario we had with Don't Ask, Don't Tell, which is to say that people, if you ever reinstituted a draft, would take some estrogen or take some testosterone and say, well, you can't draft me. I'm not allowed to serve. I can't even be in a non-combat role. I don't even have to be a conscientious objector. I'm transitioning to another gender. Wouldn't that be a problem? I would think that it would be. All of a sudden, when people start manufacturing their own homemade estrogen pills or something like that, start injecting themselves with cow sperm in order to gain testosterone or some other weird shit. They used to implant monkey testicles into people. Believe it or not. They thought that it would give them more testosterone. Yeah, didn't work exactly. Often got gangrenous and caused death, but they thought it was a good idea at the time. And it's quackery. And you'd probably get a wave of quackery if you ever tried to reinstitute the draft and you got a class of people that's not allowed to serve. Someone says, well, I don't want to serve. I'll just inject some estrogen for the next month. I'll show up and I'll say, yeah, you want to sign up? And then they'll put me down. Like, I won't even wait for them to try to draft me. I'll just show up myself with, boobs and stuff and say, well, yeah, I'm transgendered, but you should, hey, hush it up. I want to serve. And then when they turn you away and give you a paper saying not eligible, you say, oh, I guess I never have to serve in the U.S. military again. Ha, ha, ha. Yeah, are John McCain's offspring going to do that the next time around, the next time there's a war? Because they're offspring of John McCain? Yeah, maybe. That's about all. Peace out.